David's topic, please? Oh, this is such a hot button right now. It is like all over the news. David, do we have your first slide, sir, with your topic on it?
Yes, yes.
And you chose an extremely current one. I was listening to the news this week. I thought, I wonder if David's listening to this right now. This is certainly his topic. Okay, timers, everybody ready? Speaker? All right, do you have your time?
It's recording. It's coming.
Here we go.
When does foreign policy go too far? When does the voice of a nation overrule a shaky alliance? And when will the American government stop sending money to Ukraine? The CNN poll in August of 2023 said that 55% of Americans did not want the US government to keep sending money to Ukraine. Though support for Ukraine has risen over the past year, the sentiment is much the same. Why is that? It is because the US government is supporting a war that cannot be won. Today I will be sharing with you why the US government should stop sending money to Ukraine. But first we're going to be looking at the problem. The problem is that the US government is unwisely funding a war that cannot be won and that is not our own. Ukraine is not even a member of NATO. Though Ukraine is an ally, they are not a major supplier for the United States in any major category. Ukraine is not a major trade partner, and they do not have any strategic oil reserves. We are more reliant on Russia than we are on Ukraine for other things. Now, we are no longer reliant on Russia for energy because we've cut all of our support for Russia at the start of the war. But before the war, we were much more reliant on Russia than we were Ukraine. Next, this war cannot be won without extreme levels of aid. In order to support or to actually make a difference in this war, we would have to send so much more aid than we already are. And even then, we would just be prolonging the war. There are many solutions or many different ideas out there on how to fix this, but here are the two most plausible solutions, in my opinion. The first solution that I've mentioned before is that the Ukrainian government should negotiate with Russia to give up some territory after America cuts funding, according to Larganti. The second solution is Zelensky's plan. Zelensky just released a 5-point plan to NATO sometime this past week. The first point of his plan, according to John Hill of MSN News, is an immediate invitation to join NATO. Now, what is NATO? NATO, exactly, is a military alliance that was formed in 1949 to deter the Soviet Union from spreading into Central and Western Europe. Formulating the second point of the plan is continued Western aid to equip the Western brigades. So on top of being part of NATO and getting the resources that they do not already have access to, they would request even additional Western aid on top of that. Formulating a nuclear strategic deterrence against Russia, cultivating joint protection of the Ukrainian critical resource and investments, and lastly, replacing U.S. military contingents in Europe with hardened Ukrainian troops. This is an unlikely plan, however, because NATO does not want Ukraine to join. They are not willing to extend an invitation in the middle of wartime and in the middle of the U.S. presidential elections. Election season has a much bigger impact than you might think because both candidates actually stand on different positions on this matter. And Zelensky has made it clear that he's catering to either candidate that he thinks is going to win. And NATO doesn't want that noise while they make this decision process. Now let's evaluate the options. I have outlined already the first part of the first plan in my first speech, and that is that I believe Czech Republican President Petr Pavel says it best. And then when he says that most likely outcome of the war is that part of the Ukrainian territory will have to be given to Russia for at least a number of years, quoted by Larganti. Zelensky's plan, however, I believe carries a few holes. If Ukraine were to join NATO, America would be forced into going to war. To protect, as the part of the alliance, it's a military alliance, and we would be forced to provide troops to fight, and that just forces America into a war that we already don't want to be a part of. Going to war with Russia would possibly create another world war. Russia has strong allies in China and North Korea, and if we go against them, we're going against two of our greatest enemies in the world, and that could create another world war. Ukraine wants to replace American troops with the Ukrainian troops in Europe, and this actually is not helpful for Ukraine. By the end of the war, the best deterrent against Russia right now is the American troops and American stations that are already there in Europe to prevent them from moving further. And if we replace those with European or Ukrainian troops, that's actually weaker for Europe. Jerry Connolly, the NATO president, parliamentary assembly president, says, "I take this offer to be an act of generosity." He also calls it unproductive and also harmful. I believe, so which option is best? I believe that the first option is the best course of action for this war. 70,000 Ukrainian troops have been killed, according to Catherine Armstrong. Close to 120,000 soldiers have been injured. 180,000 Russian soldiers have been killed, and more than a third of the Ukrainian population has been displaced from their homeland. The craziest part of these insane numbers is that they're probably wrong. Neither government is willing to disclose accurate information in this matter because they don't want to provide any information for the opposing side. But American estimates estimate much higher numbers than even these, and that is terrifying. In conclusion, the US government should stop offering aid to Ukraine. And so I ask again, when does foreign policy go too far? When does the voice of a nation overrule a shaky alliance? And when will the American people realize that we are supporting a war that will only prolong suffering and not actually stop it?
Time, please.
I have 23 seconds left.
I have 5 seconds left.
I have around 6:21.
Thank you. Alrighty, make sure you give final ratings, please.